Welcome to this training on the OFPP, or Organic Fraud Prevention Plan. In this training, we will describe this plan and the requirement to create one as part of your OSP, or Organic System Plan. The objectives of this training are as follows. Understand what organic fraud is and the NOP requirements that describe the OFPP, or Organic Fraud Prevention Plan. Understand the components of an OFPP. These include developing a team, creating a supply chain map and critical control points, undergoing a vulnerability assessment, and employee training development with ongoing monitoring. Next, you will learn how to create this plan specific to an organic dairy or cattle operation. We will also discuss implementation of this plan, how to follow through on these requirements. And finally, the monitoring and training component for ongoing organic fraud prevention. Let's define organic fraud and understand this section of the NOP, National Organic Program Standard. The amended section of the standard was implemented in 2024 and is the impetus behind this training. Producers and handlers across the board are required to develop a plan in writing to mitigate potential organic fraud. This is explained in the bolded text. This must include a description of the monitoring practices and procedures to verify suppliers in the supply chain and organic status of agricultural products received, and to prevent organic fraud, as appropriate to the certified operations activities, scope, and complexity. We will clarify this requirement on the following slides. What is an OFPP? An Organic Fraud Prevention Plan is the plan or document that producers develop as part of their OSP to outline the vulnerabilities and mitigation strategies for preventing organic fraud in their supply chain. The OFPP is a separate OSP document that is submitted by all operations. The goal of the OFPP is to document how each operation ensures only compliant suppliers and organic products are used, and it details the steps taken to prevent instances of organic fraud. The plan must evaluate all certified organic items, products, feed, livestock, etc., that are purchased or brought onto the operation. It must also describe how the suppliers are verified as being compliant, as well as how the actual products are verified to retain their organic status from the supplier to the operation. Some examples we will discuss of agricultural items on a dairy or cattle ranch are hay and grain, some feed supplements if they are organic, such as kelp or molasses, organic seed, and of course organic livestock. Note that non-organic materials or inputs like fertilizers, pesticides, and cleaners are not included in the products that are part of the OFPP. These products are reviewed and approved for organic use, but are not necessarily certified organic, and therefore do not need to be included in an OFPP. Let's discuss the components of a successful OFPP to help you in drafting this new section of the OSP. There are 5 components as noted on this slide. 1. Create the Organic Fraud Prevention Team. These people will be responsible for creating the plan, making sure it is implemented, conducting the ongoing training of other personnel, and monitoring the effectiveness of the plan. This could be the main herdsman or owner of the operation, or perhaps all responsible employees may be part of the organic fraud prevention team. Number 2, create a supply chain map with critical control points identified. Here, you will detail incoming organic items, their suppliers, intermediary handlers or transporters, and your receiving on the farm. There is an example of this on the following slide. This may be as simple as tracing hay purchases from 20 miles away, or identify a more complex chain with purchased organic cattle being delivered by an uncertified transporter. Keep in mind the second example may require additional OSP reporting or updates. The third is a vulnerability assessment. An example of this is also forthcoming in this training. In essence, you will describe the steps taken to evaluate risk and identify your critical control points. You will describe your mitigation and prevention strategies to prevent organic fraud and outline your ongoing monitoring practices. It is important to understand the difference between mitigation and prevention. Mitigation will reduce risk that cannot be eliminated. Prevention will seek to eliminate or reduce vulnerability of a purchased organic item. Each critical control point in your supply chain map should have a corresponding strategy in the vulnerability assessment. There may be a separate table or narrative where you describe the vulnerability assessment. The fourth section is training and reporting. Here you will outline your employee training to ensure the OFPP is followed. As changes occur to your critical control points or farm's procedures, you may need to conduct additional training as part of the OFPP. This will help ensure employees are keyed in to preventing organic fraud when receiving organic feed ingredients, cattle, seed, etc. They should know the procedures and requirements of the documents that accompany these activities. In this section, you will also describe the measures in place to report suspected organic fraud to your certifier and the NOP. A link to the NOP complaint portal will be provided in this training. The final section of the OFPP is monitoring. This is where you will review the effectiveness of this plan periodically, and if updates are needed, provide them to your certifier. You will describe the criteria used to evaluate your plan, the interval at which you conduct monitoring, and any other pertinent details. Here is a graphic of a potential supply chain map for a cattle or dairy operation. The organic products sourced include organic straw for bedding, organic grain for feed, and certified organic heifers. The supplier group or type is listed, which is a critical control point. You may have several suppliers, and not all suppliers may need to be identified in your OFPP, but rather your procedure for verifying your suppliers are currently certified organic for the particular items you purchase. The next step is transportation. While uncertified transporters are generally allowed, all loading and unloading must be done by a certified entity, which could be you or the supplier. Transportation is also considered a critical control point. There will be documentation in the form of a BOL or weight slip provided by shippers, and organic language must be noted on all of those records as well. In this example, we see some potential procedures for a vulnerability assessment for an organic cattle dairy. This section 3 is one template provided by a certifier, and yours may be different, but should still capture the same information. For organic grain and hay purchases, recording a list of suppliers in a logbook and verifying the current organic certificate is on hand is the best practice. For transportation, is the transporter certified or coming direct from the supplier? If the transporter is uncertified, all documents, including a clean truck affidavit, must be in order. Your vulnerability assessment will outline these CCPs. Purchase of replacement stock was identified as another CCP. Here you outline the procedure for purchasing organic stock using some past examples as a guide. In this example, past records were not clear enough and lacked organic language on some necessary documents. As a result, new protocols have been developed and are described in the OFPP. Here is a graphic of a chart used to record a mock vulnerability assessment. The CCP is identified in the left column. The second column identifies the mitigation or prevention strategies. The third column outlines the monitoring practices utilized for each of the CCPs. I'll pause here and we'll take some time to read through this slide as we go through the example. This is how you would fill out a vulnerability assessment. Grouping together grain and hay purchases, our mitigation and prevention strategies to have current organic certificate on hand, verify the grain or hay variety is on their list on the certificate, and verify organic is written on all traceability documents. For ongoing monitoring practices, we're going to review the OID quarterly. We'll touch on that later. OID is the Organic Integrity Database, a clearinghouse for all certified organic operations where their certificates are viewed and downloaded or printed. We're going to check all new suppliers prior to purchase, meaning any new hay or grain suppliers must be verified. We're going to follow the supplier approval protocol that we're developing as part of this OFPP. For seed, if that's part of your pasture rotation or cropping operation on your cattle or dairy farm, the plan here is to purchase and transport the seed myself, verify organic seed or all compliance documents are complete before I pick up the seed. And ongoing monitoring will be checking the seed tag and receipt for every purchase to verify any seed coatings are on my approved materials list. Again, being sure that no non-compliant seed is planted or used. As you may be aware, it could have serious consequences to your certification. Purchasing replacement animals. Verifying the organic certificate of the seller and the slaughter eligibility of the heifers, and have a complete sales record. Verify all individual IDs are present on all documents and they match the heifers prior to unloading the trailer. This is an important step to verify you're getting what is on that bill of sale. Verify transportation documents are accurate and any feed or bedding used during transport is also organic. For ongoing monitoring practices, only purchase from suppliers that are verified as organic through the OID for each transaction, unless you're purchasing from the same operation routinely, and in that case, check the OID quarterly. Well, that makes sense. Uncertified transport for feed, while a critical control point, less risk assessment there. We're verifying clean truck protocols are met, that the scale tickets, receiving documents, all call that commodity organic on all documents that you're collecting. Another important step. And going forward for future monitoring, review all of those affidavits before unloading, and any changes to your transporter, verify that their protocols are also being met for those new folks. So livestock transportation, last section here. Purchase documents are reviewed at the time of pickup or drop-off, so this goes both ways. Confirm all animals received or loaded are the same as on all documents, checking those individual IDs. We want to have transport documents with a date, the origin, destination, any stops or hauling time calculated within there, and matching IDs of all animals shipped. If you're bringing in animals, you want to verify that they weren't unloaded or given any feed or inputs, medication that was not part of your agreement, and observe the bedding to be compliant, and again, matching what was reported in the documents. Going forward, monitor for changes to any transporter and record any new transporters in your OSP. Verify protocols are being met and review all records for each transportation event. Keep in mind, these critical control points in your vulnerability assessment must match your CCPs in the supply chain map. The last sections of the OFPP are training, reporting, and monitoring. You may want to use a template similar to this, or start an OFPP notebook on your own. Here you will be able to record training events, topics, and participants. You will also identify your practices to report suspected organic fraud observed on your operation, or perhaps from a vendor. In the monitoring section, you will describe policies and procedures for ongoing monitoring of the effectiveness of the OFPP. Any instances that may have occurred that fell through the cracks of the OFPP should be recorded for improvement and training. You will also detail how often monitoring of the plan is done. Here is a look at the process of filing a complaint with the NOP if you've observed suspected organic fraud in your supply chain. This information should be included in your plan, so make note of the details on this slide to keep as part of your plan. You will also want to provide the same complaint to your certifier and reach out to them for the best way to communicate this. The first example is from a list of cows sold as part of a sales transaction record for organic replacement heifers. What is missing? While the individual animal ID number is listed in the left column, their birth date and age are listed, we cannot determine if these cows are slaughter eligible as organic, that they are not transitioned animals or treated with a synthetic parasiticide or other medication that makes them slaughter ineligible as organic. The second record is an invoice from a purchase of organic cull cows from an organic dairy. What is missing here? First, there is no individual ID listed, only 6 cows. Also, there is no organic identifier listed. If these were organic slaughter eligible cows, the sales record must indicate that. Neither of these records are compliant and should raise immediate flags as a failed critical control point in your OFPP. Employees should not receive these animals, and if your buyer is purchasing your cull cows as organic, which means they are also certified, this sales invoice would not be adequate for your records. It is your responsibility to double-check traceability documents as part of your record-keeping practices. Here are some images from the OID, or Organic Integrity Database. This is the website used to verify and download or print current organic certificates for all certified operations, regardless of certifier. In these two examples, while they are both organic dairy and cattle operations, they have animals in the herd that are not slaughter eligible as organic. The certificate listing identifies animals with a notched ear or ear tag are not slaughter eligible as organic in one example, and black ear tag animals in the other examples. If you were purchasing or receiving organic cows from this operation, this important distinguishing factor must be evaluated to verify the animals you received are in fact organic slaughter eligible. If not, they must be identified as such in your records. In this example, a purchase of organic straw for bedding was planned. There are two regional suppliers. These graphics are from the product summary in the OID. The operation at the top lists hay, pasture, and wheat. The one below lists hay, wheat, and wheat straw. If you are purchasing organic wheat straw for bedding, it is important the certificate from your supplier lists organic wheat straw, not just wheat. Thank you for participating in this training, and I hope you have learned how to create and implement an organic fraud prevention plan, why it is important, and how to monitor its effectiveness in your operation. Hopefully this training will help keep your organic system plan up to date and develop a system to prevent organic fraud from occurring in your supply chain. Thank you also to the Organic Center for supporting the creation of this training and associated resources.